Sony releases another Last of Us Part 2 video detailing gameplay, live service games are rampant, and the Snyder Cut is officially happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 232 of the It's Obvious podcast. I am Garrett Drake. I'm joined online by Jacob Alka and Preston Pugh. On my end, it's a beautiful morning in Atlanta, Georgia. Boys, how are you this morning?
Fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing well. It's great to see you virtually on Zoom again. Preston's halfway across the country in dumb old stupid Texas. Preston, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm just chilling in this Airbnb, ready to talk about video games and other various things.
Well, you're in the right place.
Yeah, you are in the right place. We have plenty to talk about. We have a bunch of fun community questions as well. Before we get into it, gentlemen, I'd love to hear about your weeks. I had a rather relaxing week myself, all things considered. I mean, I did a fair amount of work, but I also got to play some games, and I had a grand time doing so. How about you guys?
Nice, dude. I've had an interesting week. If you want me to go next,
yeah, I'd like you. I'd like you to share the story of your near-death experience this week, if you're willing.
Yeah. Well, before that, the gym opened up on Friday, so obviously I'm very thrilled about that.
This is the near-death experience we're talking about.
Yes, I almost died because I couldn't go to the gym for so long. But yeah, so I went to the gym yesterday. I woke up this morning. Yesterday I did chest because, of course, that's the thing you do when you go back for the first time. And I woke up this morning, and I kid you not, like my boobs, my breasts, guys, like they hurt so bad. Like it's so painful. Like anytime I do this or anything, it's just like, oh.
That's great, man. You got.
It's a great feeling. It hurts, but it's a great feeling. But besides that, like obviously I'm happy about that. But I got into a car wreck this week on Thursday afternoon. So I was on my way back from Covington, Georgia. And I was on probably one of the most dangerous highways in the state, which is I-20. And I was so it's a 4-lane highway going both ways. So I guess it's 8 lanes. But I was in so there were 2 exit lanes that would get off on the 285. And I was on the 3rd lane from the left. So I guess the left exit lane, but it's the 3rd lane.
You know what I'm thinking about when you say that? Just a side note, I'm thinking of Lemon in our Destiny raid video where he's describing whatever sequence we were in. And he's like, it's right of the leftmost. That's how it describes it.
I guess I should just say the 3rd lane.
You were right of the leftmost lane.
Yeah. I was in the leftmost exit lane, I guess. But I was just cruising, going 60, about to get on the exit ramp, you know. I wasn't doing anything wrong.
You sound like a responsible citizen.
Yeah, I was being. It felt like, and I thought I was being. But next thing I know, I get fucking clipped in the left side, and I get taken out from back from the left side. Then I start going to the left, and I lose control of my van completely. Like I can't control anything, and thankfully there was no one to my left when I swerved lanes and hit the median wall, because that's what I did. I lost control of my van. I couldn't steer. I could brake a little bit, but it all happened so fast that I don't think I braked very much because I was just in shock. But so obviously he hit me, and I think that's what banged up my arm a little bit. Here, I'll actually show you a little bit right now. It actually doesn't look that bad now, but on Thursday it was like super swelled up, like right here.
He hit you pretty hard then.
And then this was like bleeding a lot.
Wow.
But I know it's a little bright, but it's really not that bad. It doesn't hurt at all now. But I was extremely fortunate that this was all that happened to me. Like, I could have died. I could have, lost an arm. I could have been in a vehicle that was on fire. None of that happened. Yeah, I was extremely fortunate. But yeah, he clipped me, and then I smacked into the median wall. Like, thankfully there was a wall there. Yeah, like the complete left side of the van was just shredded. Like the mirror was gone, the window was shattered.
What kind of car was this other guy driving?
I don't know, dude. It was like a piece of crap red Mazda.
Was it like a little sedan, or was it like a truck, or
it
sounds like
it's
a tank that hit you.
Yeah, it felt like it, dude. I've never felt the impact of another car. Like, of course, it wasn't head on or like a T-bone or anything like that, but just feeling that impact, it kind of shocked me a little bit. And then when I hit the wall too, that impact, I could still remember it in my head. It's kind of terrifying thinking about it, but
yeah, that is.
I think that's just an effect of the shock or like the aftermath of like just re-experiencing that moment.
So just to clarify, you're not hiding the truth of you're outrunning the cops in your little mini work van full of frozen food.
Speaking of the cops, though, I had the most attractive cop ever that was helping me out through all this. And then once everything was wrapped up, she gave me a ride back to a Chick-fil-A in Dunwoody where my coworker was going to pick me up and take me back to work.
Chick-fil-A. No wonder you're in.
Well, we didn't go inside and eat, Garrett. Don't get carried away now.
So, Ossifer, you want some chicken?
But we did talk basically the whole time, and this by the time
you asked her out, dude.
I did ask her out.
Yes.
Unfortunately, she has a fiance and she's getting married in 3 months. But she said she was extremely flattered, so I don't know if that's like a good thing.
She's totally leaving her fiance.
Yeah.
You started it.
Next time you get hit, it's going to be her car. She's like, oh, sorry, I didn't see where I was going. I'm going to need to handcuff you and put you in the back of my cruiser, sir.
Yeah, but we originally like hit it off because she was also from Indiana, like me. And no one's from Indiana, so it was just like a shock that I actually met someone that was from the same boreal state that I was. So.
Aye, another from the land of the orcs.
Yeah, she was super cool. But I was a little sad about that, but I was more just thankful that I was alive and not injured. So
I'm thankful you are alive too, Jacob, and that you could tell us about your sore breasts because they're famous and you need to take good care of them because without them, It's Obvious Gaming would be futile.
Yeah, but that was the biggest bummer. Like Thursday night, I was like, are you kidding me? Like the gym's opening up right now. And of course I get hurt right when the gym's opening up, so I can't do anything. But I went Saturday, like I said, and I wasn't really sore at all. So
well, Jacob,
it's good news.
That's an awesome story. I mean, it'd be one thing if you just like got hit and you survived to tell us, but the fact that you got a ride from an attractive police officer and you had the courage to ask her out just livens my morning so much.
I was so nervous
made my morning.
when I like popped the question. I was like, would you be curious maybe in going to get some dinner sometime?
How about we just go to Chick-fil-A? We're here already.
Yeah.
Like, sir,
how about some nugs on me?
Did you know asking out an on-duty cop is against the law? I'm going to have to arrest you.
Oh, God.
Holds you at gunpoint.
She let me sit in the passenger seat, and they're not supposed to let you do that.
Wow. Were you handcuffed while she did this?
No.
Man.
I think she wanted to, though. You know, in a sexual way.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what an experience, man.
And maybe that's what I wanted. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll share the story at a later time, but I have a similar story about asking someone out and them already being preoccupied with someone else, and it was quite humiliating and embarrassing. But
it's not that humiliating.
This one was, trust me. I'm proud of your courage, Jacob. Thank you for sharing.
Of course. But yeah, that was my week. Obviously, I played some games. Well, a game.
Nice.
Let's not kid ourselves around. We know what I'm doing. What about you, Preston?
Did you find your mythical horse yet, or whatever you're looking for?
No, I didn't get any mounts this week. Nothing's dropping.
Man,
stupid game.
It's a shame.
I randomly had an urge to just see the world of World of Warcraft this past week. And
I always have that urge.
While I was waiting for a video to render, I was like, I'm just going to pull up a video of someone exploring the world. So I pulled up a 25-minute video of someone just flying a mount across every single continent.
Yeah.
And I've always been blown away by the art of the game and just the idea of being in that magical world and all.
It's funny you say that because it looks so old at this point, a lot of it.
You know what I like to think of about worlds like this? Like when I think of any game I've ever explored with friends, nothing on that scale, but something like RuneScape or Destiny or, name any open world multiplayer game or RPG or MMO. I always just think like the small moments that stand out to me from the memories. Like, for example, doing the Nightfall Strike on the moon with the big ogre. And Destiny, I always think of us.
We would cheese that doorway.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think of. Like I think of moments like that, and then I think of the scale of World of Warcraft and all the tiny little memories that people have in different parts of this world, and it just blows my mind because so many people have played it.
Now imagine Destiny if it was on the scale, or even like somewhat of that scale of World of Warcraft. Like imagine if the moon had so much more space and more to explore. And like every planet we went to,
like the moon had some cool tavern and a cave somewhere.
That's what I say when I was disappointed in Destiny.
Yeah,
like when it could have been so much more. That's kind of what I mean.
And I get that. I mean, it is ambitious for a game of that scale. and like what their intent was with it. But then I think of games that are gigantic, like what's that online open world shooter that's like a never ending battle? It's like a never ending war.
Planet Side.
That one. Yeah, it's like, what if it was more like that, to where it enabled hundreds of thousands of people to play at once in large open spaces? I don't know. It would be like more like a World of Warcraft maybe, but those times are gone. And will Destiny ever evolve, or will Bungie do anything new? I don't know, but I'd like to think it'll either become something more or they will do something new. That'd be a fun topic one of these days, is talk about like what we'd like to see from Bungie next, based on their history with Halo, history of Destiny. What's next for them as an indie studio now? It's got to be daunting for them. Like, I know they have a pretty dedicated core fan base for Destiny, but how long is that truly sustainable?
I mean, I oftentimes still watch the content creator Dado, and I think the last video I watched, he was talking about that the game's not really in a great state right now, because they've been like, I know we're just way off. I guess we're on topic, but we're still in the opening here. But like the game, like they've like tried so many different content releases. Like they've done like the big X packs, like the Taken King, and I think Rise of Iron was another one. But then they like switched to a like I don't even know what it's called, but they do like these smaller like seasons. They're seasons.
Yeah.
And I know people weren't that excited about those because not only are they not offering a lot of content, but they're not even offering like new ways to play. They're just like giving you new things to earn. And then there's like people complaining about the Eververse, but people have always had a problem with that. But I don't really know what they need as a community, because I don't really play the game anymore. So it's kind of hard for me to sit here and speak as to what's wrong with it, or But
Except
yeah, I think
last week.
Exactly. But I think it would be fun to do what you just said and sort of hypothesize what we think Bungie could do next. Like, are they going to release a Destiny 3, or do you think they'll maybe make a new IP? I don't know. My bet would be Destiny 3 eventually. Or they're just going to keep adding on to 2. I don't think they're done with it yet.
I think they need to just continue to add on to 2 and make almost like a sequel-sized expansion pack that could potentially drastically change like worlds and stuff to make it more open and stuff. I think they could potentially receive a lot of backlash if they took away all your stuff again in this. In the
for sure, all that progress.
Yeah. I don't even know how they do it narratively. Like, oh no, the VOD blew up again. We gotta start over.
Back to square one. Top Gun from the top.
Yeah.
I mean, that would theoretically probably draw me back in as a player. I've never like truly like despised Destiny. I've had some great times with it, but it never like got its claws into me beyond the first game. Yeah. I don't know why that is too, because I like praised Destiny 2 when I reviewed it. I think I gave it like an 88, like an 8.8 out of 10 at the time. Granted, that was like way back when I first started critiquing games, but I don't know why Destiny 2 I didn't fall in love with, but I still like, I know we've all given thought to this and we've talked about it 100 times, but it would be cool to see it become something more than what it is.
I often think about, this is like the last point I have, like, would Destiny have been as big as it was had it come out? Like, imagine the games that are out now and all the different options we have. Would it have been as popular as it was if all those games were out when Destiny 1 came out?
If it came out today, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Because many games have sort of emulated their formula since then.
Yeah.
That have not.
I mean, would a lot of
successes.
those emulated games exist without Destiny 1?
It's a good point.
That's a good point too.
Because like, if you remember Destiny 1, like, it wasn't that great of a game. Like, people had a lot of problems with it when it came out, and there wasn't a whole lot to do. So like, I wonder if those problems would have been even more prominent in terms of like people not wanting to spend time in the game. Because like, people just grinded the game back then just to get into the raid. And like, once they did that, there was absolutely nothing to do. And even like getting ready for the raid was kind of hard because you were like restricted from weekly lockouts, I think. So I wonder if people would have had the same patience. But that's not something we have to get into.
Yeah, we should write all your concerns to Bungie every day until they respond and make the changes based on your problems with it.
Exactly.
But gentlemen, what'd you play this week? I want to talk about what we've been playing.
Nothing. I can just go ahead and get mine out of the way.
Man, 2 weeks in a row for you. That's bogus. You didn't play anything on Switch either?
No, not really. I've mainly just been watching TV. I watched more Better Call Saul, trying to get through that. I started Avatar: The Last Airbender with a coworker,
Ooh,
and I've been watching a ton of King of the Hill. And I'm enjoying all three of those things a lot.
I love King of the Hill.
nice. That's a
Dude,
lot of good TV.
King of the Hill is freaking hilarious, and I was telling Garrett about this a few days ago, but I'm honestly shocked by how much I'm enjoying that show.
Dude,
Like
it's so good.
it's
timeless.
really funny. Yeah. So yeah, just watching that stuff. I just downloaded Mafia 2 on my laptop last night. So I'm gonna try and play some of that today. I've been having the hankering to go back to that game since I saw the like I didn't get the definitive edition because the Steam reviews are not good at all for that. It's sitting at a mixed right now. Well, maybe that's a little strong to say not at all, but apparently there's a lot of bugs and stuff going on. And the director's cut edition was like $8 on GOG. So I just downloaded that. I never played any of the DLC or anything, but I was like having the urge to play that game even before like the trilogy remaster or whatever was even a thing. So just seeing it being talked about uh more recently because of that has really made me want to jump into that game again. I think it's really good, so I'll be interested to see if it's as good as I remember it being when I played it originally back on the 360. So
Uh-huh. What's the third one? The one that came out that people were disappointed with a few years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, was it a few years ago? That's crazy.
I think it was more than a few years ago. It might have been like 5 or 6 years ago.
No way. No way Mafia 3 came
I
out
think
5 or
so.
6 years ago. No, it did not.
Look it up.
That'll like blow my mind if it's more than 5 years ago. I'm thinking like 3,
I'm saying 4 to 6.
4 to
I
6.
know I'm like expanding my answer here, as opposed to like 2 or 3.
All right. Mafia 3 released in 2016 on
That's right.
October. So 3 years and change. So
Man,
Yeah.
I remember doing Let's Plays for that.
yeah.
I did enjoy the game like initially. I didn't play a whole lot of it.
Yeah, the story I thought was great. I loved the cutscenes. The characters were very interesting. Like all that stuff was fine. It was just the gameplay loop just got extremely repetitive. Just going to these locations, doing the same thing over and over again, just so you could build, like reputation with the other mob leaders. But I remember the beginning of the game, the first segments you went through, were like really, really good and solid. They were like scripted levels and stuff, and I wish more of the game was like that. So definitely a little disappointing, but yeah, like I said, I have fond memories of Mafia 2, so I'm looking forward to playing that. And I'm also excited to see that they're like remaking slash mastering. I don't know if it's a full remake or just a massive remaster or whatever of the original Mafia, and that's supposed to come out in August. And I never played that one, so I'm definitely excited to play that for the first time as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it with me. So pretty lame.
Solid week. I mean, a lot of great TV at least, and you can get in some Mafia soon. So I think that sounds wonderful. What have you been playing, Jacob?
For sure.
Just been playing some more WoW. Like I said, haven't had any luck this week on any good mount drops. I did, excitingly enough, switch my spec, Garrett, which means that so each class in the game has 3 different specializations, which I refer to as specs in short. And like each one is like a little different in terms of their playstyle, but you're still the same class, so you still have some of the same base abilities. So I switched from one spec to another. So in doing so, it kind of made the gameplay a little more exciting, which is cool. And then I tried to do a bunch of some of the harder content at the time, just to see if I could handle it with my new spec. And because I'm a pro gamer, of course I cleared it with ease. So that was exciting, and yeah, not too much more to report on that front.
Yeah, Jacob, I'll never forget my one cherished memory with you in World of Warcraft when I was a blood elf, a rather handsome, sensual blood elf.
You were a good-looking blood elf.
I was, Jacob. I went out of my way to make sure he was just gorgeous. He was a cross between Legolas and he was like a more feminine Legolas. Not that Legolas isn't already feminine enough, but he was beautiful. I think I had a belly shirt on at the time too. And you picked me up like an elven whore of sorts, like a harlot, on the side of the road next to a tavern, and you picked me up on your large mammoth.
Yeah,
and we
I
set
still
off
use
on the
that
adventure.
mammoth.
I know, and you're like, I'm going to show you a little thing or two about World of Warcraft. So I was just on the ride of my life, quite literally, on this mammoth, and every now and then people will be like, "Hey man, can I hitch a ride? Hey dude, can I hitch a ride?" I'd be like, "No, go find your own." I was like screaming at everyone as we're flying through tunnels and caves and mountain passes and valleys, and I'll never forget it, man. I still really, really appreciate the tour of that small section of the game.
Yeah, I know like the meme about blood elves, but I do love I love the aesthetic of their starting zone. It's a good looking area.
Were you memeing
I don't know if
Preston
you
and I when
remember
he
that.
told us to pick blood elves for our free
Oh,
20
yeah.
level characters? Because I remember, like, even the guy still.
I was really fishing for your opinions, just like knowing nothing about it.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm totally fine with a female character in the game. I'm not sexist, dude, I swear. But there's just something so funny about the blood elf, just like this warrior elven male standing very feminine, like it's remarkably sensual to a point where it almost turns me on. So it's a dangerous character to play as. But speaking of World of Warcraft, I know we had talked about, we're discussing Let's Play ideas, of which we've generated quite a few ideas that we're excited to explore.
I think you came up with this one.
I did. I was like, dude, what would it look like if, we recorded me having a journey of like level 1 to 20, and then I pitched the idea of like, what if I just purchase the version where I start high level and we just do stuff in World of Warcraft?
Yeah.
And you talked me out of it so quick. You're like,
then I explained how much money you would have to spend.
You're like, dude, you're basically offering to sell your soul. You got to buy the game, then you got to buy the high level character, then you got to pay the monthly fee. And I know nothing about the game.
Here's actually what I think you need to do. I don't think you have to buy the game. I think if you just buy the new expansion pack, which is Battle for Azeroth, I think there's actually a discount on it right now. So it might be around $20. I would have to check and see how much it is right now. But then you would have to pay the sub. So that's at least $35. And then you would have to pay $60 to boost a character to 120. So
yeah, that's
you're still spending a lot of money, even if you're not purchasing the game at full price.
Even if we weren't in the midst of a pandemic, that is well beyond my pay grade temporarily.
There you go.
Hopefully for not much longer, but yeah, that's kind of out of the question. But one day I have always fantasized about playing that game for more than just a few hours. I know Preston and I dabbled back in the day, but it's always been deep in my heart, Jacob. One day, perhaps I'll explore it. But I did play a fair amount of games this week, all things considered. I played fair amount of Hunt Showdown, still madly in love with that game. And last night, Jacob and I actually prepped for a Let's Play he and I are going to do together. We've talked about this for a long time. It's sort of like an experienced player introduces a novice to the game, and we just kind of go into a match and explore and face the horrors and try to succeed with an experienced player and a green player. But last night, I recorded this. I'm not going to upload it. We recorded it in case it turned out to be entertaining, but I basically gave Jacob the basic lay of the land of Hunt Showdown, how it works, the systems, the mechanics, a few strategies among many. But he kind of has an idea of what we're getting into, so we're going to record a Let's Play later on, and hopefully it's a good time, but we look forward to it.
Yeah.
So played Hunt, great time. I played Spyro last night for about 30 minutes while my frozen pizza was cooking, which I nailed, by the way. Red Baron. It's not quite up there on what's his name's pizza ratings, the One Bite Pizza reviews, but it's one of my favorite frozen pizzas, and I thought I killed it.
What did this guy rate number one?
Presently, there's like an 8 point something. I can't remember the name of the pizza, but Red Baron's like in the middle somewhere.
What about DiGiorno?
That's like at the very bottom.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
What?
Dude, DiGiorno
You think Red Baron's better than
trash.
DiGiorno?
Yes, DiGiorno's awful.
How do I get off this podcast?
Jacob, you got to talk to the man who's the master of frozen pizzas, because everyone thinks I'm joking
Is that
when I say
you?
this. Yes. Everyone thinks I'm joking when I say I can cook a mean frozen pizza. They're like, "Oh, that's funny. You just can't cook, so that's your joke."
What does that even mean?
I'm like, I'm being dead serious. I'm like, there's a fine line between a perfectly cooked frozen pizza and disaster. That's the thing with frozen pizzas. If you don't nail it, it sucks. If it's overcooked, awful. If it's undercooked, terrible. You got to hit the perfect time.
I mean, yeah, undercooked.
You have to
is
know
bad.
your oven like it's your child. You have to get to know your oven and take good care of it. And you have to know with each frozen pizza, like the nuances of how it bakes in your oven. And Red Baron, I've mastered the art, my friend. If you want a damn good frozen pizza, come to my apartment. I'll treat you nicely. Anyway, what I played Ripto's Rage for about 30 minutes. It was great. I played Witcher 3 Wild Hunt on PC for the first time ever.
Oi, Witcher!
At least, I mean, the first time I'd experienced it was as a Presence place in 4K 60 FPS, and it was mind-blowing. Thankfully, I can play in mostly ultra settings at 1440p, 60 FPS, and I hadn't forgotten, but I was just reminded of just how beautiful that game is. The music, the skyboxes, the characters, the writing. So I have really enjoyed dabbling in that. I told Preston I probably will never play through it all the way again, but it is fun to run around in it because I've been in a huge fantasy mood the past week. I don't know why. I've been dying to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it's not streaming anywhere. I mean, I could buy it on Amazon, but it's kind of expensive. And the DVDs are at my parents' house, so I think I'm going to pick those up tomorrow and watch those this week. Big fantasy mood. And I think that's why I have World of Warcraft on the mind too. It's like, I'm just going to watch a video for 25 minutes of someone flying around.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's actually what got me into WoW, was those movies, I think. I was like, wow, this is like everything I want.
Yeah, I need to exist in this world.
Mm-hmm.
What else did I play this week? I can't remember.
You
I think
beat Final Fantasy VII.
That's a bad sign that I can't remember that, dude. Because I kid you not, I was playing Hunt one day, and I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. What is it? It was driving me crazy all day. And I finally realized, it's like, I still haven't beaten Final Fantasy. So I was like, I should probably go do that. So I went over to my PS4, booted it up, and finally beat it. And I loved it. I recognize, if you play on the harder difficulty, what it demands of you as a player to, prepare for each battle, know how to fight each boss, and weigh the pros and cons of all the items and potions and magic at your disposal. That's where like the true heart of the gameplay is. But of course, I'm quite lazy with that game, so I played on easy and just hack and slash my way for the most part through the game. So the gameplay, and it's my own fault, which I recognize, was not that engaging. But the reason why I loved the game was the writing and the characters and the music, presentation, everything about it, absolutely adore. But because I played the simplest way possible, the gameplay I didn't fall in love with. But overall, man, I thought it was an incredible achievement. I cannot wait for the follow-up when we're about 60 years old, if that. But really, really enjoyed the story. Unbelievably epic conclusion. And now I'm just dying to have the soundtrack in my hands and just jam that 24/7 because it is phenomenal. But that was the extent of what I played this week, gentlemen. But I think we've rambled for quite a bit with this intro, but I'm glad we're getting to catch up. But I'm excited to talk about the news this week. Shall we commence?
Yes,
let's do it.
Okay, boys. The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog, Sony have released another video with insight into the game that's launching in about 3 weeks from now. And this one's detailing new gameplay mechanics, things we can expect. And granted, before we get into it, I'm hoping that they are keeping some sort of gameplay element, feature, mechanic under wraps to surprise us as players. Because I will say, upon watching this video, I don't think this is controversial by any means. I'm sure other people feel this way. It looks outstanding, but what they presented is nothing that's like making me freak out. But I want to get your thoughts. I mean, the obvious. You can go prone, hide underneath things, hide in grass. AI will react accordingly to those things. There's a jump button for elevation advantages. You can dodge. They want to implement the pressure under survival. There's items to craft and collect are few and far between, but you're rewarded for exploration of these giant open areas. There are story encounters and experiences that you can totally miss if you don't explore, which I love. And this is kind of what I gathered from the video. On one hand, this is one big point I thought of last night. I understand it's a dramatic, dark, serious game, but for goodness sake, they gotta lighten up when they present this stuff because they are so dead serious the whole time that I'm like, I want to feel your excitement. I know they're excited, especially on Twitter. Their mantra has been entirely different, especially before the leaks. But I'm watching this video. I'm like, you guys look bored to be talking about this. Like even Druckmann's like, yeah, so you now can hide underneath things in this dark, dreary world. And I'm like, at the very least, you know why I think Hugo Martin is such an effective game director is because not only is he just clearly a great leader at id, but he's just so fired up to be talking about what he's talking about. And in all fairness, Doom Eternal is an entirely different gameplay experience from Last of Us. So it makes sense as to why he'd be fired up talking about like heavy metal, demons, shooting. It's insane, and be like really excited about that. So that's when he talks about Doom Eternal, I'm getting more and more excited to play it. Whereas with The Last of Us, they're all just kind of like, yeah, so it's like wild out there, and it's like dark, and there's blood and chaos, and you got to explore. And I think they're taking it a little too seriously. And beyond all of that, this is kind of what I gathered, and I'm sure a million people have thought this, but I think it's worth talking about. So I think everyone knows this. Naughty Dog thrives in writing and presentation. I wouldn't even go as far as to say they thrive in story, because I think Last of Us Part 1 is clearly their magnum opus in terms of the total package, gameplay, story, and writing. But when I say writing, I think they thrive in characters, because I really couldn't tell you the plot of any Uncharted game, but I remember all the characters like they're my best friends, because they're just so beautifully developed. And of course, presentation, their animations, their graphics, especially in the console space, is mind-blowing. But their gameplay has never truly been anything innovative by any means. Now, and again, in all fairness, for Last of Us Part 2, prone, jump, and dodge are all new mechanics for The Last of Us, but that isn't anything we haven't already seen in a million other games. And in particular, it just makes it a little more like Uncharted. It may not be as bombastic and crazy, but you can do all those things in Uncharted as well. And what I thought of was, think of, and again, entirely different goals, different mindsets, different purposes for all these games. But I think a prime example and a fair argument is look at From Software going from Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne to Sekiro. How it's a similar world, but it's entirely new gameplay mechanics for all of them. Like Bloodborne plays very differently from Dark Souls, and then Sekiro plays way differently from Bloodborne. And I feel like as a studio, in terms of gameplay, they've advanced with each game. Whereas The Last of Us continue to push graphics, push animation, push writing, but their gameplay just has been sort of stagnant to me. That's how I feel, and I'm hoping that when we get into the game, that there's something that's still under wraps that is just a little more innovative. And I say all that, I want people to know I'm still incredibly excited to play it. I know I'm going to enjoy it because there's nothing wrong with any of those mechanics. And in fact, they're beautifully polished and they fully support their story. But I wanted to present that question to you guys on the innovation front. How do you feel about it? And secondly, what would you like to see in Last of Us Part 2 in terms of gameplay? Like, forget the presentation, forget the characters, forget the story, gameplay focus. Like, how do you feel about that?
Preston, you want to go, or do you want me to say something?
Yeah, I can go.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be anything under wraps. I think the only things that could potentially kind of spice the gameplay up are like certain set piece moments. I'm sure there are probably a handful of those in this game, just like in the first one, whereas like Joel was captured in like that device in Billstown where he's flipped upside down, or the part where also in Billstown where they're pushing the truck, Ellie's in the truck and you and Bill are out protecting it. I'm sure there's going to be, you know, things like that, but I don't even know. I'm pretty sure that they're well, I don't even want to say that. I just don't know what else, like what other gameplay mechanic they would be hiding that could be implemented to drastically change things, because I do think that their main focus in this game, like he said in the this gameplay video, is that they want you to like survive every battle by the grit of your teeth, because that's just what this world is. It's all about survival, and I think that that's why they are pushing crafting like they have. They're really pushing this dynamic AI system, which I don't know if they talked about it too much in this game, but I know they've talked about it before, where there are these dogs now that are able to track your scent, and with your pulse vision or whatever they call it in this game, you can see your scent following you. So you can, you know,
you have your stanky Rangus following you.
Yeah, exactly. But so you have to be, aware of that when you're in situations with dogs, and how uh, enemies that you're fighting react to like losing you and finding you again. So it's like that stealth system which I don't believe was actually no, it was present in the first one, but how you can actually engage in a fight and go hide again and like re-enter that
Yeah.
hidden state, and be able to plan and attack them. And I think with a jumping ability and being able to hide in tall grass or hide under things, that's going to expand that type of gameplay, since you're able to, have the high ground and the low ground with the prone. But there's more ways to get position over people and to hide from them as well. Uh, so I guess it comes down to if you think that is a step in the right direction or not. Because, like I said, I think the main thing they want to get across is,
Pressure under
surviving.
survival.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess I honestly only felt that in the original Last of Us playing on grounded difficulty. Whereas on like normal and easy especially, you just have an abundance of crafting supplies. You're able to craft, Molotov cocktails just, pretty much anytime you needed them, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, hopefully they've maybe dialed that in a little bit more on the normal difficulty. Because, I mean, it is very, exhilarating to just escape by the skin of your teeth with like only a couple of bullets left, and you have enough materials to craft this one bomb or cocktail, and your plan is you execute your plan correctly, and you're able to use the supplies that you have to either escape the area or take out the remaining guys. So that's what I enjoy about the first game, and it looks like that's just amplified in this game. I think in terms of like what you're talking about, the evolution from software games, I definitely would love to see that in whatever Naughty Dog does next. Yeah, because I think that in terms of like advancing the gameplay from the original Last of Us, it looks like they're doing about all they can in this,
This is what I wanted to talk about, because I didn't understand like your comparison, because you were talking about like Demon Souls to Dark Souls to Sekiro, or Bloodborne to Sekiro, right? But those are each different games entirely, and they all have different systems entirely, while they all might share the same skeleton, maybe to a certain extent. Like, I didn't know if you were like comparing Uncharted to The Last of Us, or just The Last of Us to The Last of Us 2. Because if we're talking just Last of Us to Last of Us 2, obviously there's only so much that they can do within the same game universe, right? Like, and because it's so realistic too, like you can't like add like a double jump or just something crazy like that.
I was hoping for a triple front flip is what I've been trying to get out.
Right, yeah, of course.
Ellie's been practicing her gymnastics in that time.
Exactly. But I didn't know if you were like comparing like the innovations between those games, or like, I don't know, I just didn't understand your point. That was all that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because this is why I'm not a game designer, and that's a great question too, is like what are their limitations in that world they've established, and something that would surprise us as players. Because what I was thinking is that everything they presented, I'm excited for, absolutely. Like, I'm not downplaying it at all, but it's nothing that I didn't already really expect to see in the game based on what they've shared. Mm-hmm. And I think one aspect that's easy to overlook is the upgrade system, where you're adding new skills and expanding on those skills, and they express in the video, you cannot unlock every single skill through a single playthrough. So when you pick something, you're committed to it. And in that sense, everyone will have a slightly different experience based on what they prioritize. So I think that's a huge plus as well. But I thought it was worth bringing up, because I think Naughty Dog as a studio, like Preston said, it'd be most interesting to see what they do next, like completely new gameplay experience in an entirely different world, and what they're truly capable of with gameplay and mechanics versus just presentation and writing. But I am still dying to play this game, but this gameplay video didn't fire me up any more than I already was.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I kind of know what I'm getting with The Last of Us. I'm just excited for the story that I'm going to get.
No,
I want to see what happens.
That's exactly how I feel.
I have no idea. I'm probably gonna, or I'm anticipating to cry at some point, if not multiple times throughout the game. I will definitely feel it. So I'm stoked. We are very, very close. So
For sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. To pivot in a mighty way, Jacob and I discussed this topic while we were setting up the notes yesterday, and he sort of presented a good question that I really had to think about because, you know, Fortnite is such a huge platform in terms of marketing at this point, and we've seen Star Wars clips debuted in the game. We've seen live music performances that are absolutely mind-blowing within a game world. And most recently, they debuted Christopher Nolan's Tenet trailer, of which I might add looks phenomenal. I'm very excited for that movie. But Jacob sort of presented the question, you know, what sort of event would actually encourage you to download and be a part of Fortnite while this event occurs versus just watching it after the fact? And I told him that it'd have to be something out of this world to where you literally can't see it unless you're not in the game.
Okay, let me present you with this. What if the ghost inside had a musical performance in game? Would you do that?
I was going to say, like, if Veil Maya was having a concert, I'd totally download it.
Yeah, maybe if it was one of my favorite bands, I'd download it. Because I still get caught in the fact of, you know, if I can watch it after the fact, I would do it. And I told Jacob, because Jacob did prompt the question of like live musical performances, and I said, nothing will ever compare to being in person, like in real life at a show.
And
like
you're right. But I don't think that necessarily is why these things happen. I think it's just a cool new thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly unique. I mean, I can't even contemplate the massive scale of the Travis Scott thing. It was unreal. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I can only imagine what they'll do to top that, because, you know, as a studio and as an audience, people expect them to go bigger and better every single time, which is sort of unrealistic in a lot of ways. But yeah, live band, if it was the Ghost Inside, you know, for them, I'd probably download the game.
Right.
So, but Tenet, have you guys seen that trailer? We won't dwell on this subject too long, but
I never watched it. No,
I actually haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it looks really interesting.
Yeah. What's it about?
It's not really about time travel. It's called time, like manipulation, or I can't remember what they call it.
Here we go again.
Yeah. But it looks really unique. It's one of those weird Nolan concepts, sort of like Inception, that really like makes your brain hurt when you think about it. But
so
it's
like
cool.
So it's like Quantum Break.
Kind of, but not quite to that extent. Maybe a little bit, but it looks awesome. And I like Robert Pattinson a lot. He looks great in the movie. I know Denzel Washington's son. I keep forgetting his name, but he looks great. And it looks like an awesome Nolan film, so hopefully it's great. And I'd love to see it in theaters. I know they still plan to have their July release. We'll see if theaters in Atlanta are open by then. But
I remember when this quarantine first started, and I like wondered if, because obviously a lot of theaters have closed down by now. There's not really any new movies coming out. But I wondered if like these new movies, because not only are they just releasing things on like Netflix, like things that either were already in theaters and they weren't supposed to come out this soon on DVD to watch, or just people are just releasing things on Netflix because they don't have the ability to go see movies. But I wondered if like they were going to start doing things like inside Fortnite, for example, just like showing premieres of new movies. I don't really think that's happening.
Can you imagine a movie studio being like, all right, we're not going to send this to like any digital network like Netflix or Hulu or even our own like studio website for that matter. We're going to debut it in Fortnite.
Yeah, it's
so
also
even
like
mainstream
weird,
audiences have to download the game to see it.
Right, but how would you even like monetize that? That would be another thing.
It would be madness. Everyone would record it, pirate it.
Yeah.
It'd be a disaster.
Right. So maybe that's just a broken idea. But
world famous, super successful director Christopher Nolan's new film in Fortnite. With all my friends, we were building towers while we watched it. It was so sick.
We need Jeff Keighley there on stage.
Jeff Keighley
wasn't he was there for the Star Wars event, I think it was, where like they put lightsabers in that game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it was something at Game Awards, right? Wasn't that what happened?
I don't know if it was Game Awards. Maybe it was Game Awards, but I know they
was.
Presented that Star Wars clip.
Anyway,
yeah,
doesn't matter.
Summer Game Fest, though, just a side note, I would love if we live reacted to whenever WB's presentation is, because if they show Harry Potter, I know we'll freak out and we'll have a great conversation about it. So we should do that.
Dude, I was thinking about watching Harry Potter the other day. I think I might start it again.
I don't blame you.
They're so good.
I actually just watched a video about Harry Potter movies this morning. Just randomly. It was on my feed and I watched it. So it's a good idea. But gentlemen, Jacob, you sort of brought this up, and it might be a good conversation. Maybe not. We'll see. But Amazon's free-to-play shooter Crucible is out. And Jacob and I hadn't seen this in action yet. He sent me a video, and it bored me to death instantly because it's, super colorful, wacky characters in a free-to-play multiplayer game where there's objectives, PvP, PvE, and you have like abilities and they're shooting each other, and it just screamed, it just reminded me of the remarkably oversaturated free-to-play multiplayer space right now.
Yeah.
And fortunately for some studios, these games stand out among the rest. I mean, notably, of course, Infinity Ward and just Call of Duty in general, Warzone, which is also free-to-play. Apex Legends. What are some of the ones I'm blanking on right now, like the big ones?
Destiny, League of Legends, Fortnite. So you could go down and down on the list of multiplayer online games. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dota's like League.
Soon is Valorant going to be free to play?
Yep.
Yeah, Valorant. Yeah, there's just so many.
Counter-Strike's free now, but it's the same as Valorant. Well, Valorant is the same as Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Let's recognize who came first.
I mean, you can't blame publishers, and you can't even blame indie studios for seeking that financial and critical success with a free-to-play game that sort of just becomes a live service, and it's supported by your dedicated fan base for years on end, just generates loads of income. That's sort of the dream for a studio because they can focus on a singular project and not slave over sequels every 3 to 4 years and start from the ground up. But they can just focus on their one game and just improve it, evolve it over time, and that money just keeps flowing. So as a publisher in a studio, I get like that's the dream situation. But these are popping up like weeds at this point, even like tiny little games you never even heard of, completely oversaturating the market. And you got to wonder how sustainable this will be just in the industry as a whole. Like, will this ever just come crashing down because there's so many that these players start getting drawn in all these different directions? Because I'm someone, and I know you guys are the same way. I don't really get dedicated to one game for years on end. I dabbled in Apex, dabbled in PUBG. I've played like 10 matches of Fortnite.
I think you guys are both sort of like that. Like you both just play a lot of games.
I know. I mean, this is unfair to me to say, Mike. Are we rare because we don't really get tied down to one particular like live service game, or is like the masses that play Apex and Destiny and all these games?
Dude, I was literally just thinking that today because I have a coworker who brings his Xbox with him. Every trip we go on, and this entire week he's been absolutely obsessed with this game called Crossout. I've never even heard of it until now, but it's a free-to-play vehicle combat game, and he's like obsessed with it. And I hear him in there on his headset just going crazy and stuff, and I talk to him about it, and it's like this a big community, at least that's what he tells me, of people that like played this game. He has like a group of guys he gets with and plays with frequently. A few months ago he was obsessed with Warframe, which we didn't even bring that one up. That's a massive free-to-play game. And then I think there was one before that, but he's like the type of person that is like finds one of these free-to-play games and just like gets attached to it and plays it for months. And like I said, he's playing one right now I've never even heard of. So maybe we are in the minority. I mean, there's a reason people are continuing to make these types of games. Like even if they're not like Apex Legends type popular, like if they can find a even like a smaller group of like really dedicated people that support it by either buying the microtransactions or whatever, or just playing it, it probably is like financially viable for them to do it,
Yeah. And you got to think like if people are more like you guys, they're spending a lot of money buying all these new games, unless they're just buying a bunch of things discounted on Steam. But still, like being a consumer, you got to think if you enjoy a game a lot and you have a group of friends that are still playing it, I imagine you want to keep playing that because you're having a good time with it, whether it's just because of your friends or you just like the game a lot. But also, they're keeping you tied to the game longer because of things like microtransactions or like little mini DLC updates or just anything like that, as opposed to like dropping another $60 to play like the newest and greatest thing. I just don't know if, like, obviously, like, there's people that have money and still play the same game all the time. Of course, there's an outlier there, but I would say that people that play a lot of games are sort of the minority now, because that's just sort of how the industry has grown to this point. I don't know if you guys would disagree or agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a complete minority, because these new releases are still selling like
Sure.
multiple millions of copies like in the first week when they come out.
Yeah.
Like Final Fantasy sold like 4-something million copies in the first week.
I guess it's hard to say.
Yeah, which of course in the overall there's like over 100 million PS4s, so that's still a very small like minority of players. But
free games obviously have an advantage being free, and
yeah,
there's no barrier to entry.
Yeah, no,
as long as you have the system.
Yeah. In terms of like the original question, like, are they oversaturated? I don't really.
Are we just talking about online games or free to play games?
Like free to play online multiplayer games that are designed around like loot boxes and microtransactions to be sustainable.
Well, because something like Overwatch is designed around loot boxes, but it also has a box price.
Yeah, but I'm thinking more in terms of like Apex Legends, that your PUBGs, your Fortnites, stuff like that. And the reason why I think it was a fun question is because I'd almost say we're in sort of like a renaissance of free-to-play accessible multiplayer games. And it's going to be very interesting to see over the next couple of years, especially with this turn of generations with new consoles in particular, what that space will look like going forward, and if it will continue to grow or if it'll just sort of flatten out and like a new renaissance will rise up. I feel like free-to-play is here to stay in many ways, but how free-to-play games can be something more than what the majority of them are. I think a prime example is, and again, like these probably aren't as sustainable because they don't appeal to the masses as much, but what's that game you and I played for COG, Preston, that horror multiplayer teen game?
Oh, like First Night or something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember the title, but that was kind of interesting. That was cool. And Jacob and I looked into what was called like Black Note or Blackout. Not Blackout, Black something.
Black Light.
I think that's what it was.
Retribution. Yeah. That's a very old game.
Yeah. No. It wasn't Black Light.
It's on our Google Drive.
It was like this teen like horror run. It was, I don't know. What do you even call it?
It is called Blackout Club.
Oh, okay.
Blackout Club.
And it looked pretty cool. I think when it comes to games like that, I'm always drawn more to like the more unique experiences. I think that's why I'm so in love with Hunt Showdown, and it's a cry in my heart because the game is so inaccessible for so many reasons. It's in an old school time period. It's kind of expensive to buy, and then on top of that, there's a huge learning curve. So it's remarkably inaccessible. I mean, the good thing for it is that it's on every platform now. Apparently, crossplay is enabled, so that's cool. So there is hope for that game, but I've always been drawn more to games that are a little more interesting in terms of mechanics and gameplay. I think as little as I played that horror game, like it really grabbed me for like a solid week while I was reviewing it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see more experiences like that, and that's why we added Blackout Club to our potential Let's Play list, because I'm like, that's a multiplayer game that's pretty interesting. So
yeah,
another
one
I forgot
while
to
we're
mention.
Speaking about it,
we didn't even say Warzone. Actually. That's probably like
what were you gonna say?
Besides Fortnite, the biggest one right now.
Yeah, I said that at the beginning. But,
oh, my bad.
Yeah, I didn't go into
listening to you.
Yeah, in detail, but it's weird, dude, because I love Modern Warfare 2019, but I've hardly played Warzone for some reason. I know we talked about doing a Let's Play for it too at some point.
I think just Modern Warfare in general, I kind of fell off on. If Warzone came out sooner, I probably would have been, way more into it when I was just in that mood to play it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think people are willing to try these free-to-play games, because it does seem like every time a new one is announced, like I explicitly remember when Apex Legends was released, listening to podcasts and commentators saying like, oh, this is stupid, it's dead in the water, why is Respawn doing this? And it's like became a big success. So I think if you put out a solid, like a really solid, fun game, and you show that you're dedicated to it, and also like you have to get the word out there. Like Apex, they had streamers, like they paid streamers to play that game to
Yep.
spread the word. They had a big marketing campaign, and obviously the more people that see it, the more people are gonna download it.
Dude, and think about marketing now. Influencers have changed the market, and I'm not even just talking about video games anymore. Like, think of, always forget his name, but Dave Portnoy, the pizza guy.
Yeah.
For Barstool Sports, I mean, he is like the guy for pizza these days. Like, if he reviews your pizza, like business booms, literally. And same with influencers, how like traditional marketing schemes still exist, like trailers and promotional material, but it's often delivered through streamers. And streamers can make or break your game. If a notable streamer just trashes your game, hopefully in a respectful way, like chances are the game's not going to do nearly as well. So it's just fascinating to me how the industry has evolved to that point where streamers could potentially be the end all be all to your game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but interesting topic. And while we're talking about free to play multiplayer games, Respawn has marked its 10-year anniversary. They have done tremendous work, not only for themselves as a studio, but under the umbrella of EA. And they are celebrating it with the announcement of a new Vancouver studio. I read the details on this. It's not all that interesting to actually read about, but this studio will focus on Apex Legends to sort of alleviate Respawn from doing other things. Obviously, probably Star Wars, a new Jedi game, among hopefully Titanfall 3.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Are they going to make Titanfall now?
That's a hard question because Apex shares many of the same mechanics as Titanfall, and as much as I love, especially Titanfall 2's campaign is so good that I would like to see them explore another like first-person shooter campaign like that. But I hear people talking about Titanfall 3, but neither of the first two games sold all that well. But you got to question, after the success of Apex, after the success of Jedi Fallen Order, they've really established themselves as like a huge AAA big-time studio. So would Titanfall 3 inherently sell significantly more than their previous two entries? I don't know. Is it worth them investing that time in development?
I know he recently commented on Titanfall 3 when all this was going on, and I'm pretty sure he said something along the lines of like, they're not even like thinking about it right now. Like it's purely just like a concept at the moment. So,
and you got to think about like where they've come since even Titanfall 2, as great as that game is they've seen huge success with their free-to-play shooter. And they've also seen tremendous success with their Jedi game. So they should probably focus on their giant successes instead of diving back into Titanfall.
I heard somebody, I believe it was on the Kind of Funny podcast I was listening to a few weeks ago, but one of them had a great idea of, instead of maybe putting out Titanfall 3, why don't they make a single player campaign for Apex and have it like as a $20-$30 download? Because
that's brilliant.
That's like, you're able to advertise it in that a game that like millions of people are already playing, and you can get almost like a new Titanfall game like with that.
To add to that, and the newest season that just came out, I think it's season 5 in Apex. Holy crap, I need to close this. It's so bright. They added like this sort of like treasure hunt kind of thing that sort of has a narrative to it. Like I think when you load up season 5, you have like this like a log of like every week, I think a new step in the like hunt or the quest that you go on throughout the season opens up. So like you're dropping into the map, and you have an objective, and you go to this place, and then you like scan something, and it gives you some narrative, or it leads you one step closer to finding what you need to find on the map, whatever they've created. That's just something to mention. So I think they are starting to like think about how can they not only just give people more things to do on the map, sort of like how Fortnite does things, but also how can they create more memorable moments or narrative moments to, tie people more closer to the characters that they've created. I think that's stuff they're exploring right now. But I'm with you. That would be really cool to see like a whole like set of missions dedicated to like Pathfinder, the robot dude. Like, why is he? Who is he? Like, why is he a robot? Why was he so smart?
Why are you a robot?
Right.
Why were you created? I do think that's brilliant. I mean, I had never given thought to that, and I know
if you're interested, you should watch the trailer. Check it out.
Yeah, because I mean, their trailers are always cool, and I know they've done various things with their characters to sort of market expansions and changes to the game, and the characters seem like they're full of personality, and it would be cool to see them interact together in a story scenario.
Isn't Overwatch 2, which again I think we said that last week, is I keep forgetting that is a thing. Yeah. Aren't they doing like a single player type campaign deal?
They're doing sort of like a single player. Well, it's not a single player campaign. It's like a co-op campaign. You have to play it with other people.
Yeah, I think Apex doing something like that could also be interesting. Like you said, just focused on these characters, how they're related to each other, stuff like that. Definitely be cool.
Maybe they could very well be doing that in that Vancouver studio.
Wasn't there like I remember reading something about Respawn, a studio somewhere, a part of their studio that's doing something with Frostbite.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they're still kicking it with EA though, because I know EA Vancouver studio is on the same campus as this new Respawn studio. And supposedly based on the article, they're starting out with a relatively small studio of employees. I think that they said between 30 and 80 or so. And they're not actively hiring for the time being, but I imagine for game developers either in Vancouver or willing to move to Vancouver, this is a huge opportunity. And I love Respawn. Everything they've done, I've loved. So I'm just excited to see how all their stuff continues to evolve. But really cool announcement, and I guess fingers crossed for a Apex campaign at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I think maybe I got it confused with DICE LA. Obviously they'd be using Frostbite for oh yeah, I'm reading this article. It says Respawn boss Vince Zampella has confirmed that the next DICE LA project is probably going to be a shooter, and it's going to run on Frostbite. Why
isn't he with DICE now? Didn't Vince go somewhere else?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Vince is.
There's got to be a reason I'm tying Respawn to
he's the head of DICE LA now, right? I think that's what he left Respawn for. He left Respawn to head a new studio, and I think it was DICE LA.
Cool.
Because there's DICE LA, and there's also main DICE, which is in Europe somewhere. I don't remember where. But they make Battlefield and Battlefront and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Forgive me for not
I'm
knowing more. I'm an idiot.
Real quick to see what his bio says. Head of Respawn Entertainment. I don't know. You know what?
It still says Respawn?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. I just remember seeing something about DICE and Vince Zampella. So, but yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But anywho,
we'll find out. Gentlemen, the Justice League Snyder Cut officially exists. I was never totally invested in the idea of this, but apparently it's happening. It's been announced, it's official, and it is coming to HBO Max in 2021. And interesting scenario, because Zack Snyder is not obviously reshooting any of the movie, but they're adding additional visual effects and story elements with permitted ADR and visual effects, but he cannot recast any of the actors, and he cannot necessarily reshoot anything. So I guess he's using pre-existing footage that was cut from the original cut of the movie and is going to evolve it into his now Snyder Cut. And Preston, I know when you and I saw this movie in theaters, I was sort of in denial at the end. You were immediately like, that sucked. And I was I don't know, dude. Like, it's kind of good. But like the more I watch videos critiquing that movie, the more I realize I'm like, that is truly an awful film. And a lot of studio meddling. And again, it's a terrible situation with the Zack Snyder and his family and the loss of his child. So that's heartbreaking. And there are a lot of issues that plague that film. But I mean, I'm interested to see what happens, but it's coming exclusively to HBO Max. And I'm wondering if this interests you enough to even subscribe for a month to HBO Max to check this out. Is it worth it to you? And I think it's a brilliant marketing strategy for HBO, because seemingly millions upon millions of people have been calling for the Snyder Cut, maybe even just on principle alone, or just to see if they could pull it off. Because we've seen how the internet has influenced movie studios these days. notably with the Sonic design, that the studio completely redesigned the character for the better, and I think it really paid off for them. And HBO Max is a new subscription-based streaming service from HBO, even beyond like HBO Go. I think HBO Go may be evolving into HBO Max. And I know J.J. Abrams is involved with a bunch of Justice League animation-type films and TV shows that I think are coming to the service, among all the other great stuff that HBO has going on. But obviously they want to influence people and encourage them to subscribe. And I think the Snyder Cut is a big marketing ploy, and probably why they're enabling Zack Snyder to do it with the $20 to $30 million budget, because I believe that they think in time it'll pay for itself. But do you guys have any interest in checking this out?
I don't have HBO at the moment, so I don't know if I will. But if people seem to be positive on it, I will consider checking it out, because I haven't seen the original movie. So I imagine seeing this cut would be a good way to experience it for the first time.
Just pretend the other doesn't exist.
Right. I hope it's good.
Here's a fun question for Preston and I. Preston, what is an element in a perfect world that they could change about Justice League as you know it and make it a film that you would deem worth seeing, or would make it inherently or just objectively better?
Dude,
I already know what mine would be.
I don't even know, because I don't even remember the movie.
I surprisingly remember a lot of it, and I think it's because I've seen so many memes about it.
The final battle, I remember that. I just remember not having fun. That's the main feeling that keeps coming up, is just boredom.
I remember being shocked by the portrayal of Batman in the film, because in Batman v Superman, also directed by Zack Snyder, he's dark and brooding and intense, whereas in Justice League, it has the Marvel effect, especially bringing Joss Whedon in, and he's just a big goof and a cartoon character. Like, they make so much fun of Batman, he's just too jolly, and I hated the portrayal of the character. So I
remember Gotham City looked cool.
And it also looks like a cartoon in the beginning too. But the style is very cool. I've always liked a stylistic, like gothic looking city. And as much as I like Christopher Nolan's trilogy, I always liked the slums look of Gotham, because it was darker and dingier and didn't look as realistic. And like the Chicago aesthetic works for his grounded take on the character, but I've always really enjoyed like the mythical, ancient aspect of Gotham City. It looks like it's a obviously ancient city that has just grown over time. So that's why I love that they're shooting the Batman, and I think it's glass glow, much of it, which is cool from a visual standpoint. And like I've said, the Arkham franchise is by far my favorite iteration and style of the character. So I think in terms of the way the movie looks, I mean, visual effects could certainly be improved, but the style wasn't really the problem. It was obviously the writing and the story were pretty bad. So I'm excited to see what Zack Snyder does with it. I'm glad he has the opportunity to really finish what he started. Not in the ideal way, but at least he has that opportunity. And it's probably a good thing for HBO Max, because I'm probably going to want to watch it.
I definitely want to watch it.
So that's cool, though. I mean, it's awesome how the internet, I mean, it's a dark, horrible place, but can also be a pretty cool thing sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason, is because the Snyder Cut almost became like this legend that people have been talking about for such a long time. So I definitely just want to watch it.
Yeah,
I think that's why HBO scooped it up.
Yeah, good on them. Well, gentlemen, that brings us to AskIOG. Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
AskIOG is the part of the show where we answer your questions submitted through any of our socials at ItsObviousGaming, the AskIOG section of our Discord channel, or emailed to us at ItsObviousGaming@gmail.com. If you want your questions read live on the show, always include the hashtag AskIOG. First one comes from Garth C. He says, "Hey guys, been a listener for a little over a year now. My friend, thank you so much for tuning in. I just have a question on all the COVID-19 stuff going on. What are your guys' thoughts on how the government is taking everything and the response they have for everything going on? Also, hello from Idaho. Hope you guys are doing great."
Idaho.
We are doing great. And it's interesting you ask about COVID-19, because obviously we've been in this season for quite a while now. I mean, I guess it's been since early February, like the rumbling started, like things might get locked down, schools might close, businesses might close. And I have, by the grace of God, been so busy between school and freelance work projects that sometimes I forget we're in a pandemic until I go back outside and everyone's wearing masks. So it is quite an interesting dystopia we're living in, because I stumbled into Publix recently and I was the one of maybe two people in the store that didn't have a mask on, and I was getting all these vile looks like I was evil or I was inconsiderate, and I realized, like, man, maybe I should like be a little more respectful of how people are feeling about the situation. But I will say this. Personally, I am not remotely worried about it. I'm not worried about the government. I'm not worried about the virus. I do recognize that it has ruined lives. It has taken lives. It has ruined businesses. It has ruined retirement plans, relationships. So it is not anything to take lightly. And I can say that I don't fear it because I'm like, oh, I'm like big and strong and courageous. Like it is by the grace of God alone. I'm not fearing what's going to happen, because I do believe the world is in his hands and there's a very clear plan going on right now. So I'm not really worried about the questionable strategies of the government and some of the funny stuff I've seen coming from all sides of it. I like to stay in the loop. It's good to be informed, but I do my best to just refrain from being buried in the constant news, because it's always changing. There's differing opinions from every direction, and it's just a like a never-ending pit of confusion and chaos and negativity. So I think it's best to avoid it. Stay informed, but avoid the madness of it all. And I just pray that the season will pass, and that everyone who's affected by it, whether they're sick from the virus or they have been affected by it in some other of the many ways it's inflicting people, that this is all alleviated in the near future and that we can move into some relative state of normalcy. But yeah, those are really my 2 cents. I mean, I could say a lot on it, but that's kind of how I'm feeling. How you guys, what's your response to all this? I know we've talked about this off camera a good bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't, in terms of the government stuff, I haven't stayed too informed. I'll see like a tweet occasionally just to kind of see what's going on. Like I know Georgia is one of like the 5 or 6 states that just started to kind of like move into phase 2 or whatever. So outside of that, I don't know like any of the details of like the press conferences going on, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to that. But being out here in Texas, seems like things feel pretty normalish. I mean, I still the place that I'm working, I have to wear a mask to enter the building, and I have to have my
Same.
temperature taken every morning, and I have to like fill out a sheet and stuff saying that I haven't been in contact with anybody that's had flu-like symptoms or
Mhm.
anything like that. So completely separate. I wonder just how, when that process might change, become more lax, or if it
This is exactly
ever
what I wanted to bring up. Like,
ever will
what's
change.
going to be the lasting effect, and how long is this going to
Yeah,
take to
I
go
I
back to
I
normal?
I definitely think there's going to be a lasting effect. I think
Hmm.
that, and I actually think for the better. I hope people take the spread of germs a little more, seriously now. I can't tell you, dude, how many times at gyms and hotels I see people not wipe down their gear when they're done. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, even post COVID, I'm like, dude, that is so nasty. Like, I'm
Mhm.
super adamant about wiping down every weight I touch. Like anything that like my hand is grazed, like I'm wiping it down and stuff. So hopefully, just in like outside of the gym, people have become more aware about that, and perhaps in the future just less people will be contracting flu potentially and stuff if people are more like aware. I do think to a point like people are just not going to be, wearing masks and stuff out in
Yeah.
public. And there's the whole debate on, are the masks even doing anything and stuff,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
I've seen completely conflicting opinions. Like I swear when everything started, everybody on TV was saying that masks were a waste of time, but now it's like people are being required to wear them and stuff. So I'm just like, you know what? I'll wear them. Like Garrett said, if it makes everybody kind of feel better or whatever, then I'll just throw a mask on, and it is what it is.
Yeah. That's why I don't
But
have a problem with it. Like, as long as people like obviously, so I deliver meals, so I wear the masks to make sure that the customer feels like that they're more safe, right? Like I don't do it because
I could have wiped my ass.
I better wear my mask because I don't want to get
sick.
sick.
I'm wearing a mask.
But yeah, like I don't know. I guess I sort of do it just to make someone else feel more safe, which is kind of my job, I guess. But
I'm just tempted to walk into like a grocery store fully nude with a mask on and see how people react. I have the mask on. Don't worry, everyone. Everything's just fine.
But yeah, I guarantee that just like because of what's happened, I think people are just generally going to stay farther away from each other in public. And I think that might be a good thing, just in general, like Preston was saying. Other than that, I don't know if there will be any more lasting effects from this. You know, maybe this just goes on longer. Like maybe this lasts through the year. Like, I don't know.
I mean, it seems like things are getting relatively or heading towards normalcy. I know that
there's definitely more people out.
Yeah,
I know sitting in traffic now.
College football, the NCAA, I think the SEC commissioners had a discussion, and voluntary practices are starting at UGA June 8th. So
voluntary.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a reason, but they can come.
The linebacker shows up. All right, man. Let's prepare for the season. Also pivoting to touch football.
Not to
two-hand touch.
No, it's just I don't think
football.
Yeah.
I don't think coaches. I don't even know if at this particular time coaches can technically be hands-on with them. Like there are rules and stuff with how long you can practice and stuff. So I don't even know if that would be different if all this stuff was going on. But anyways, it looks like we're going to have a football season this year, thank God.
Amen, brother.
Oh yeah, but is there going to be social distancing at the games?
At the stadiums?
Are you going to be?
They're just going to live stream to an empty stadium.
Yeah,
I know.
Just live stream the games.
I think the NBA and the MLB are like talking to the city of Orlando, and they're trying to like get their seasons exclusively in those cities and just playing. For in the case of the MLB, what's left of the season, and then the NBA, like the next season. Like,
yeah,
I think they're talking about finishing the season. Even I don't know how that's going to work because I think by now NBA is already done, right? And like they're preparing for the next season, which is in the winter. So I don't know how that's going to work at all because there was no NBA championship for this last season. Like, are they going to finish that? Like, you would think that they would have to. I don't know. I have no idea what they're going to do. Like, this has ruined sports.
Well, Jacob, what was it like at the gym from like a personal standpoint?
Dude, there was no one there. There was like maybe 5 people in the whole
you said
LA
certain
Fitness.
things were marked off for social distancing.
Right. Like, so with the cardio machines, they were not only were they more spaced out, but every other one was blocked off. Like, it was just shut down. You couldn't use it. It was just there was a piece of paper on it that said unavailable. So I guess they just cut off every other machine in the gym. And some of the workout machines were like that too. But for the most part, the workout, like not the workout space, but like the weightlifting area was pretty much unchanged. But there just wasn't a lot of people, so it was never a problem. But everyone was wiping stuff down. Like, it seemed like everyone was being pretty spacious and clean. So cool. I kind of just joined in.
Were people wearing masks?
Some people were. Yeah, I didn't. Because I can't really. I don't know if you've done like a lot of heavy breathing in those masks, like the medical mask, but they make your mouth like all soggy and wet, and it's disgusting.
I've had to work all week wearing a mask. I'm very accustomed to it now, for sure.
Sometimes I have to work in like cold coolers, and I'll have to wear those masks in there. And when I'm in the cooler, just in general, my nose just runs like crazy. So
mask soaking up the snot.
Exactly. After about like 30 minutes, my mouth is just soaking wet. Like, anytime I breathe, I'll just get like this wet material pressed against my face, and it's the most uncomfortable feeling.
And I see a shocking amount of people wear the mask below their nose and just cover their mouth. Yeah. I'm like, oh, very effective.
Sometimes I'll pull it down just to so I can breathe out of my nose.
Yeah. They are a fashion statement too, man. I see a majority of people. I'm one of the few now that I see that have just like a standard, like my mom gave me something from the hospital, like medical mask.
Yeah, like
a lot of people have like stylized Mortal Kombat style masks. I'm like, those are pretty sick.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have those because they just had to make them because they couldn't find them anywhere.
I'm seeing a lot of bands now are using it as merch.
Yeah.
Like, buy this
t-shirt. Dude, a Veil of Maya mask would be pretty sick with that V logo.
It exists. I've seen it.
That's awesome.
It's on their store.
Dude, I'd like a scorpion mask from Mortal Kombat. It takes up like that whole chunk of your face, has like the design on it and everything. It'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. I think the next question we have here, we could go straight into it from this, being as it's the same topic. Just about
yeah. How much? Andreas writes in and says, "How much has this pandemic changed your gaming habits?" Surprisingly, not much for me.
Yeah, same here. Like I would have swore that like I would play more games than ever, but
Same.
I actually feel like I've played less.
Less, yeah. It's weird. I mean, you'd think with the pandemic, I mean, I guess after school ends for me, I will have a little more time, which I've said, I plan to jump into Persona. But for the time being, my gaming habits have been about the same.
Yeah. I would say that I maybe play games a little bit more just because I don't get out as much. But I'm pretty much
played
the same
a
because...
game a little bit more.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. But yeah, I'm still working. I just moved my working out to at home for the time being. Obviously, I just went back to the gym now, so I'm getting out to do that. But other than that, like I'm not really getting out to do anything, so I'm just playing more games or a game.
Right.
Garrett.
Collecting mounts in World of Warcraft.
Yes, which I'm failing at because they never drop. They got me. I'm just mindlessly killing the same things over and over again and not being rewarded.
You need to click faster.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
That
all about that clicking speed.
Improves the drop rate, I hear.
Yeah. I'll try that.
Preston can attest to it too. Maybe take a private lesson with Preston on clicking buttons quickly, because Preston is faster than anyone I've ever seen in my life. He's like a savant. Yeah. He's like Johnny Badfingers with his snapping, but with pressing buttons on a controller.
That's what I told you. That's the one thing in video games I've always taken pride over. And the first time we chainsaw dueled in Gears 2, I lost because my flimsy controller that was pretty
couldn't handle your speed,
held together by duct tape because I destroyed it so many times, disconnected during that chainsaw duel, and knowing that you would beat me in a
button mashing
contest just absolutely just rocked my world.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that.
Yeah, it was totally on my own effort. I beat you. I'll never admit that it was the controller. Griff writes in and says, "How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?" We've answered this, I think, a couple of times in our 5-year history as a podcast. All of it, I'd say. All of it.
I would agree.
Well, does he have a time limit? Right. Like, how deep do we want to get into this? Like,
I say as deep as a puddle, personally.
I'd like to think this woodchuck has a beak that's like a swordfish, and it just severs a tree in one chuck. It's over.
This is like some Looney Tunes stuff.
This is the next evolution of the pandemic, is that we have the killer hornets, and now we have woodchucks that sever trees in one peck. And I meant to add in the COVID stuff. In spite of everything, I am maintaining my detergent injections, and Lord willing, I'll remain immune by doing so. Kalmo Ho writes in and says, "Y'all watch any sort of anime? I don't mean to be a weeboo, but I was just curious. Glad to see y'all are back. Kalmo, I encourage you to join our Discord because you will be fascinated at the anime audience in our Discord, or just in our community as a whole. And we do watch anime. I typically
we
just
also
watch...
frequently talk about it too. So where you been, man?"
But I have I've stuck to the mainstream stuff, and I'm actively watching Attack on Titan Season 3. I just wrapped the latest season of My Hero. Adored it. But in my brief history of anime, I've watched Erased, Death Note, One Punch Man, which I love, My Hero, Attack on Titan. And I'm absolutely open to other anime, but there's just so much content at our disposal these days between movies, TV shows, video games, books, life in general, that it's hard for me to keep up with everything. But me personally, that's what I've been into.
Yeah. What did I tell you guys to watch?
I don't remember.
You don't remember what I was watching?
No.
I don't.
Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah,
oh,
dude.
yeah.
I would, dude, if you said, I'll give you 100 guesses, and if you don't guess it right, I'll kill you, dude, I would have never guessed that.
I
Hunter.
do hate the title. I don't like the show's name, but I do know why it's called that.
Dude,
and it's a very good show.
The premise you laid out last week, I'm very interested in it for sure. It sounds cool.
It's really cool because like this, it's just like one continuous show. Like I'm sure it was like broken up into different story beats because there's like a lot of different story beats. Like they'll spend like maybe 30 to 40 episodes in this one story beat. Then they'll like transition to like almost like a new chapter in the story. But it's all this whole journey is just this kid growing up and becoming like a professional hunter. And he's like saving the world as he goes. And this last season, something really cool just happened, but I can't tell you because it's a spoiler. But I just really want someone else to watch this so I can talk about it with someone. It's sort of like DBZ in the sense where it takes a long time for things to happen. It takes a lot of episodes, but like you're never bored watching it, and you're always like it does a really great job of introducing tons of interesting characters.
Nice. Hunter x Hunter. I'll add it to my gigantic list of anime I need to check out, courtesy of
Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle. I was trying to think of his actual
Bongles
Discord name. I've been calling him Kyle so long that I can't even remember his Bohongules.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't know Kyle's name in the Discord. But courtesy of all of you, honestly, I mean, Carlos, Sam, Kyle, and that anime tab, believe it or not, I do keep up with what you guys are talking about. And I have a list of anime that I intend to catch up on amongst my gigantic gaming backlog at some point.
But yeah, it's a big show, short episodes, but very big show.
Side note,
300 or 400 episodes.
My Hero's latest season is so freaking epic. And I just cry that I have to wait for the continuation because it is just so good. Love
that last episode's so good. That last one.
Yeah. So I enjoy it.
Preston, you still haven't watched it, have you?
I'm watching it.
Dude,
I'm still on season 3. I'm slowly moving through it, and I'm thoroughly enjoying everything. Every episode I watch, I think, is fantastic. So I definitely want to get through that. Then I want to finish Attack on Titan. I've started Attack on Titan season 3 like 4 times at this point, and I've seen the first 2 episodes like all those times, and I think it's fantastic. But then I just like stop watching it for some reason. So
yeah, it's actually a travesty you haven't finished that yet, because that season's so good.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've heard it's amazing.
I'm really loving it, dude. That animation is so beautiful, too. I mean, My Hero looks great, but then you watch Attack on Titan, it's just, I mean, it's a different style, but it is just gorgeous.
Yeah. So definitely want to watch that. And then of course, I have to finish Sword Art Online because I'm still at the same place I was in the Alicization series or whatever it is of that show. So need to
Alicization.
Alicization, I believe that's what it's called.
I don't like that word. Is that a real word?
I don't think so, but there's a character named Alice in it. So I think maybe that's why. Or I could just be completely pronouncing it wrong. But that's what it looks like to me, and that's how I say it in my head. So
works for me.
Yeah.
Maybe if you get off that King of the Hill anime, you can actually finish My Hero.
I'm really enjoying it.
I'm watching Avatar: The Last Airbender as well.
Amazing show.
I don't know if that's technically anime because it's like anime inspired.
It's like anime light, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I loved that show as a kid, but I've never like watched it through. So I'm not like too far into it. I'm on like episode 8 or 9 or whatever. But yeah, man, it's super nostalgic. It's really good. It's charming. And I'm surprised like every episode how good the animation is for it to be like, because it's in 4:3. Like, you know, it's a old show, but seeing some anime today, like for instance, like the Dragon Ball Super debacle, where it was like I don't know if it was rushed or had
questionable
restraints. Yeah, but there are some things in anime where like obviously corners are cut and stuff, and the reasons.
One Punch Man season 2.
Yeah, the reasons for that are like I completely understand like things that are going on in the anime industry and stuff. So it's just I don't know, surprising to see this show, and I'm sure it had like massive funding from Nickelodeon, so they could like make sure everything looks for the most part really good. But yeah, the animation is very, very solid, very good looking.
And it was trending #1 last week on Netflix.
Yeah,
Avatar. It's just a shame that it'll never live up to the live action adaptation from M. Night Shyamalan. It's a shame, but
it is a shame.
They can strive for that, certainly.
Yeah.
And that is the one movie in my life that I actually walked out of.
I think we tried to watch it too on Netflix or something at your house,
and we still couldn't do it.
We couldn't do it. Yeah, I've seen the whole thing, and me and my uncle used to have this tradition, I think, where like at least once a month we'd go to the movies together. And I was so excited for this movie. I was hyping it up to him, like, dude, the cartoon's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, whatever. So we went to see it, and it's the only movie in that entire span of time we were going to see movies that I looked over at him and I was like, this is bad, right? And he was like, oh yeah, it's really bad. I was like, all right, cool. But we stayed through the whole thing.
That's the first movie in my life that I knew in the moment how bad it was.
Yeah.
So I could not fathom the atrocity that was M. Night Shyamalan's Last Airbender. But oh well. Sam Harris, Scarlet Speedster, writes in and says, "Greetings, me lords of gaming. I pray thee to have a grand week. I beseech thee to answer this query. You've been granted a rather large budget to host an IOG conference or IOG con. What events would take place? What food would be offered? And what music would be played? I hope they would give me a sufficient answer, for I am in desperate need of some solution to this query that has haunted my soul for so long. Evermore shall I keep listening to your audio performances. They bring me such delight and everlasting ecstasy." That's beautiful. Alliteration, too. Everlasting ecstasy. It sounds like the name of a Final Fantasy spin-off game that kind of sucks. Final Fantasy Everlasting Ecstasy. Be of good health and mind as you venture forth. Hail the lords of gaming. Hail. I love our Twitter description from Sam that's like, gaming overlords, may our quest of virtual entertainment ever prosper, or something. Yeah. So I'm glad you asked this question, Sam, because I have actually given a lot of thought to this over the years. I'm like, in a perfect scenario, we'd have like a kind of funny live situation on our hands, but we've come up with some what we believe just thrilling aspects of this conference that it looks like Preston's reviewing now. I'm sure he caught one of the ones I added for him. But we began with a Jacob petting zoo, because as you know, Jacob is a gorgeous specimen, and we've mentioned his breasts and just his physique overall. And we've mentioned this sparingly, but he also has the skin of a baby. And if you've held a baby, you realize that they're like smooth like butter. And Jacob's skin, he's maintained his baby skin since birth. And I kid you not, it is unbelievable how soft his skin is that you can't even handle it. So a Jacob petting zoo where he's fully nude and you can just go to town on Jacob.
Fully nude.
And
you can pet any part of me.
Yeah, we also have Jacob's Gym, which is exclusive training sessions where Jacob just gets you jacked. And I have had this experience myself when we lived in an apartment together. And I'd say more or less that was the best shape I've ever been in my life when I was training with Jacob. So Jacob's exclusive training sessions. If the con occurs before release, you can debate Preston on why you can't judge The Last of Us Part 2 before playing it regardless of the spoilers. I would give a TED Talk of sorts on why Hunt Showdown is one of the best games ever made. There would be a Taco Bell buffet, naturally.
Of course.
I'd like to believe that Kyle Nelson and kenny.ahrling would be willing to perform our IOG theme songs live. You just like mosh to these songs for 10 seconds while they play.
Mosh.
And beat the crap out of each other. Of course, there'd be a live podcast with the audience, the community, and people could come up to the mics for the AskIOG section and ask us live questions like cringy Minecraft subjects. Mm-hmm. And that's what we would hope for in an ideal situation. And we were thinking it'd be kind of cool if you guys could lock me in a dungeon with my entire backlog until I complete it, beginning with Persona 5. And I can't leave until I finish my backlog.
Or maybe just Persona 5.
Yeah, probably.
We'll make you finish that game in a weekend.
It is paramount. It's at the top of my to-do list. But gentlemen, beyond this list, what are some ideas that you've kind of generated while we're talking about it?
Oof. I mean, we've already got a lot of excellent content.
I think you just knocked it out of the park with all that stuff.
I think it'd be great. I think we'd have an amazing time. Where would we host it? Would it be in Atlanta? Would it be in a cave or an open field or a circus?
I would prefer an open field near where I live, so I would not have to travel as much.
It'd be like an outdoor Renaissance festival of sorts.
Yeah,
it'd be like an EDM festival, but just not nearly as obnoxious and ridiculous.
Can we wear body paint?
Yeah, red and black only though.
And can we have like beads and stuff?
Sure.
And like, okay, I want to have those sunglasses too that have like the lines in them.
Yeah,
so I can't see out of them. Yeah,
dope.
I like those.
I dig it. We'd have a tattoo booth where you can get Jacob's face tattooed on your body if you'd like.
Yeah. Why my face?
I'm sure we could totally afford to hire some bands to play.
Yeah.
Linkin Park, Veil of Maya, Ghost Inside, Taylor Swift. She's available. I'm sure she.
We'll go back and grab Linkin Park before their lead singer passed away. We'll just do that.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that idea. Hopefully that becomes a reality in our near future. Big Colt writes in and says, "Howdy ho, boss. Just want to say how stoked I was with the rebrand announcement. I was dreading the episode where y'all might say the podcast wasn't feasible anymore. Out of the question, my friend. Of course, we had discussed, when is the end point for It's Obvious Gaming, but it was never in our hearts, and we will prevail by the grace of God, and we're excited." He says, "My question to you. I was watching an episode of Hoarders last night, and this chick was shitting and pissing in containers and just leaving it around her house for years. I didn't realize I was the only one who did that. Have you ever been in an intense gaming situation or marathon where you considered doing the same? One time in middle school, I pee-peed in a bottle while playing." Wow. That reminds me of that episode of South Park where Cartman's like, "Mom, bathroom." He craps all over.
Yeah.
The only thing I can relate to this, it was not during gaming, is when I went to see The Two Towers. I talked about Lord of the Rings earlier with my father. And I went into this movie already needing to pee. And this is 20 minutes before even the preview started. But once we sat down, I didn't have the courage to ask my dad to get back up and take me to the bathroom because we had a huge bag of popcorn, drinks, or 2 seats. It's a packed theater. So I didn't want to annoy my dad. And my dad had never given me reason to be afraid to ask him to go to the bathroom. But for whatever reason, since I knew this was a big movie, I didn't want to ask him. So my bladder was already on the verge of bursting. Movie starts. And I was in such severe pain for the first half of the movie that I couldn't even really focus on what was happening. And I eventually got to a point where I went numb. My bladder just went numb. So I kind of forgot that I had to pee. But by the end, when I went to stand up, I almost fell over and told my dad, "I've had to pee since we arrived at the theater." He's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" My bladder was so full that I physically could not stand up because it was just that heavy and full. So my dad had to cradle me in the fetal position to the bathroom and place me on a toilet. And I sat on that toilet, and I am not exaggerating, peed for at least 2 minutes straight, nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane. And I realized, I was like, I should probably not put my bladder in a situation like that ever again. But that is the most I've ever had to pee. It was during the Two Towers. Never forget it. What about you guys?
Going back to this whole pandemic thing, my work situation sort of turned into we partner with other gyms to sell more of our food. That's just the business model that they've decided to go with. But through the pandemic, a lot of gyms closed, right? So we had to transition to more of like a business / residential home delivery sort of, model. And because of that, I had less opportunities to take bathroom breaks because I'm always going to people's homes as opposed to like going inside a building that has a public bathroom. So I would quite frequently just drink water bottles and then use those water bottles to pee in. And I would just throw them in my like Walmart-sized trash bag, and I would just forget about them. I don't think that's that crazy of a thing to do, but I would quite frequently do that. And as long as no one sees you, like who cares? No harm, no foul. That's my pee story.
To each their own, Jacob. What about you?
But no, I've never been playing a game and I don't want to get up, so I'm just gonna go here.
Oh, dude, I forgot. I peed my bed once intentionally when I was a kid.
Intentionally?
Yeah, I was like 4 or 5 and I was so tired, didn't feel like getting up. I was like, you know what? And I remember thinking this, I'm probably still young enough to get away with peeing in my bed. And I straight up peed in my bed, man.
You know what? I don't have to clean this up, so
yeah, that's my thought as a child. That was the last time I did that.
Man.
So,
well, you're a bad kid.
Relatively.
You're the worst. Your mom had to wash those sheets.
No. I was also one to puke on my parents instead of like a toilet or like a trash can. I would just go to my parents and throw up on them. I puked on my dad in church once, and obviously we had to leave in the middle of the service, and we drove home with the windows down and our hair slicked back with puke.
Oh.
We were both that covered in puke. Good times.
There's puke in your hair too?
Yeah.
How'd you manage that?
I exploded, man. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was got me good. Preston, you've been pretty silent over there. You've been contemplating whether or not you're going to share your embarrassing stories of peeing and pooping yourself?
I don't know if I have any, honestly.
Tell us about your pee and poop.
It's just nearly 30-year-old men. Tell us about your pee-pee and poo-poo.
Yeah, I don't have any interesting stories.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I seriously don't.
Oh, good on you.
I guess. I mean, I obviously have peed the bed. Duh. Like, who hasn't? But
Right.
I unlike you, I don't vividly remember doing so.
Yeah. Well, if you ever find the courage to like really tell us about peeing your bed, just know this is a safe place to do so.
For sure.
But Big Colt, thank you so much for the question, man. It's very reminiscent of my times. It's the word I'm looking for. Soiling myself, so to speak.
Surprisingly, I did not shit myself when I got into the car wreck the other day. I thought I might have, but didn't happen. I escaped.
Good on you. Your sphincter sealed up in defense. Comatose writes in, and Comatose, side note, I think we asked you this, or I had asked you this years and years ago at this point, if you've been listening that long. At least it feels like years. Is Comatose a reference to the Skillet song, or the Skillet album? I believe it's called Comatose. And also, I did not miss your message on Discord about PS4 gameplay. I'd love to team up with you on something. I know we've talked about more community-style content for YouTube versus just the 2 or 3 of us playing a game together, so we'd love to team up with you guys in whatever way possible.
Wait, you're gonna play? You're gonna play console?
Possibly. Depends on the game. If enough people have PS4 and want to play a game that makes sense, I'm up for it.
Oh,
but he writes in and says, "Hey guys, good to see you back on the normal schedule again. Here's a question: if you had the time, what game would you replay at least once every year? When I was a kid, I tried to play Ocarina of Time once a year because it was the first game I ever played, and it is my favorite game of all time. However, as an adult, I don't have the time to do that anymore because there are so many good games coming out and I'm a lot busier. Keep up the good work, boys. I look forward to the future of IOG." Comatose, thank you so much for the encouragement, my friend, and support. And one game I'd replay every year. I'm gonna think about that for a minute. What do you guys think?
I play Ocarina of Time every single year. Yeah. That's about the only one that I actually like remind myself to do, and it's like I always enjoy it because it's my favorite game, and I can get through it in like a few short sessions, and I've done it so many years in a row. That's kind of what keeps me going, because I feel like I can't break that streak at this point. So I've done it
on principle alone.
Yeah, I've done it on like the 3DS version, the GameCube version. I've played the Wii version on the Virtual Console. I've beat it emulation, or like on I remember one time on my crappy laptop several years ago, I just played it on a N64 emulator with a 360 controller on a car ride down to Florida, and was able to beat it. So I've played it in like every single way imaginable. So obviously I haven't played it this year, so I definitely need to think of how. I actually haven't played the original like N64 version in a very long time, so I was thinking about just getting it on a Virtual Console again on Wii U and playing it through there, because the past 2 or 3 times I've played it have been with the 3DS remake or remaster of it. So
you might have already answered this, but why do you think you always go back to it? Like, I know it's your favorite game, but like, is there like a reason like you always love to play it?
It's the most nostalgic thing.
Yeah, nostalgia.
That that I have. I just, that game got me into games. I know I've told this story a million times, but just like in first grade, I would get out of school. My mom would pick me up in the carpool lane, and I would just beg her to take me to Blockbuster so I could rent Ocarina of Time. And I had no clue what I was doing, dude. Like I would load a random person's save file. I'd be in like the fire temple or the water temple or at the end at Ganon's castle and stuff, and I would have no clue what was going on. For some reason, I was like too scared to start my own new game. I would just load into other people's and just run around and do stuff. But I just loved it so much, and I did it so many times that my mom even it's like my mom noticed that I was getting the same game all the time, to the point where she probably just thought like, holy crap, I could probably save a lot of money if I just bought him this freaking game. So I'll never forget, I hopped in with the car and I was like, can we go to Blockbuster, please, please, please? And she was like, no, not today, like not today. And I was super bummed, and my sister totally spoiled the surprise. She was like, didn't you buy that for him? And she was like pretty bummed because she wanted to surprise me when I got home with it. But yeah, she let the cat out of the bag there. But yeah, just that entire um, just event was so big to me. And just opening the box and starting up a new game for like the first time with I believe Navi's talking to you in front of, I should know, I'm pretty sure Navi's talking to you in front of the Great Deku Tree as that game opens. I've just seen that so many times, and it just reminds me of that time as a kid. And on top of that, I think it's just a absolutely fantastic game that I think absolutely holds up the test of time. I think to this day, it's not even my nostalgia talking. I think it's a fantastic game.
Nice, Jacob. Did you already say what you would play?
You should play, Jacob. You should play it.
Ocarina of Time is awesome. I've only ever beaten it on the 3DS version, but I would totally play it again on Switch if I had it.
I would love it on the Switch.
That game not being on Switch is like,
it's mind blowing.
It is. I mean, all the Zelda games, like,
yeah, I'm waiting for Wind Waker
like,
too.
Why the heck is it not on Switch?
That's what it would take for me to play it, is if it was on a system that I had, like, or just the newest Nintendo system. Because how much is a copy of that game on N64? Like, I imagine it. Not only might it be hard to find, but also it might be overpriced.
I have a copy on N64.
I don't really have an excuse
and
then, do I?
I don't think it was that expensive either. I think there was a time I told you guys where I was like, I'm gonna like collect all these retro games. So I just went on eBay and just started buying stuff. And if I was able to buy it, it wasn't that expensive. So
maybe one of these days I'll get to it. I'd love it on the Switch though, honestly.
No, absolutely. I would be absolutely shocked and dismayed if at some point during the Switch's life cycle, Ocarina of Time is not playable on it. Like that would rock my world.
Yeah, wasn't it like a month ago where they were saying that there was going to be a bunch of Mario games? It was like a rumor that Mario games were coming out this year, just like remakes, or not remakes, but
ports.
Ports. Thank you.
I don't know. I'm thinking at some point they have to up the virtual like library or whatever. I don't really know what you call it, or they call it when you subscribe to the service. Like maybe they'll introduce N64 at some point, and then of course Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask 100% are going to be on there. So
without putting a whole lot of thought into it, I would probably pick Witcher 3, because I've only played through that game one time. I know, Preston, you've probably done it 3 times, maybe. I know 2 at least.
Two full playthroughs too.
Yeah, I'd love to like play it on hard and use a different set of Witcher armor, because I chose the bear set, the Urson, the first time I played it. I'd love to maybe go with the cat this time, or what was it, the Griffin?
Viper's one, Griffin's
Dude,
one.
Don't
Viper
do
is what I mean.
Griffin makes
Griffin.
you look like some fat old guy.
That's what I originally did. I was like, man, I look like I'm overweight.
Yeah. I don't know if I could play it every year, but I know at this point, it's been so long since I played it that if I played it right now, I would have a pretty fresh experience, because I just don't remember a lot about it.
It's such an investment to be able to play that every single year.
Yeah. But like right now would have been a great time to play it. Nothing's out.
It's kind of what I'm dabbling in right now for fun.
Yeah.
So
I've thought about it. I bought it recently for like $15 with all its DLC on Steam.
If you never played Witcher 2, I would recommend giving that a try, because
I've thought about it.
That's a really good game.
I might one day. Not now, but one day.
Yeah, and the price is no excuse too. That game's constantly like on sale for $2 or $3.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Games I could realistically play once every year would probably be the 2 I've played most is Halo 3 and Batman Arkham City. I could probably play one or both of those once a year if I wanted to. So I'll probably play through Halo 3 on PC all the way through the campaign. That'll have been the first time I played all the way through the campaign in many years, but love those games, and I could definitely play through those once a year. Ronnie Garcia writes in, and Comatose, thanks for your question, man. Ronnie writes in and says, Preston, rank all the Devil Wears Prada albums from worst to best. including the Space and Zombie
Ooh.
EPs. Also curious about your thoughts on the most recent offerings, Transit Blues, and The Act.
I will make this brief.
This guy might be a bigger fan than you.
Maybe.
You
So
even have
from
the tattoo.
Yeah, I know. So from worst to best, I would have to say their worst album, and I think worst is a strong word. My least favorite album of theirs has to be Dear Love. I've only listened to that one through one time, and that's their first album. Nothing really stands out to me in that album besides I believe Goats on a Boat is on that album.
Is
Maybe?
that Dogs Can Grow Beards All Over
Dogs
as
Can
well?
Grow Beards All Over. Yeah, I think Goats on a Boat is on Plagues. I don't know. It's been a while since I've listened. Yeah. So, oh yeah, Dear Love's probably my least favorite. Next to actually no, I'm gonna say The Act is my least favorite. Their newest album that just came out. I think it's a
Awesome album
fine.
cover, though.
Yes, I think it has some songs on there that I really dig, but as a whole album, there's a lot of songs that I just skip every time I've listened to it. And again, like I don't think it's a bad album, it's just my least favorite. But I know he's asking the worst, but think that's the worst for me personally. So I'll say The Act, I'll say Dear Love after that. After that, I'll say Transit Blues. Then I will say 818. Then I will do the Space EP. Then I will do, and I'm looking at a list here.
I love the Space EP, by
Space
the way.
EP's
I often
great.
listen to it all the way through.
Yeah, it's really good. So after Space EP, I'll do Dead Throne, which I think is a very underrated Prada album. I think that album kicks butt. I can't remember if I've said Transit Blues yet.
You did. You said it.
Okay. Actually, I might put Transit Blues over Space EP. I'll put Space EP right below Transit Blues. But so Space EP, Transit Blues, Dead Throne, Plagues with Roots Above and Branches Below, and then I think my favorite has got to be the Zombie EP.
Zombie's my favorite too.
Yeah,
I'm totally jamming to Plagues
butt.
today, though, man. I'm in a Plagues mood.
Yeah, Plagues is my. It's very close between Plagues and With Roots Above as my favorite full-length album, but for this list's sake, I'll say Plagues is my favorite full-length, and my favorite Prada product of all time is got to be the Zombie EP. It's awesome.
That's gnarly. I always appreciate the unrelenting nature of with Roots Above and Branches Below. Just song after song just ties into the other, and it just hits you over and over and over again nonstop. It's awesome.
Yeah. In terms about my thoughts on their most recent offerings is I actually really like Transit Blues, and like I said, I like some things from like Transit Blues has one of my favorite Prada songs ever called oh my gosh, I know I say that and I can't even remember the name. It starts with the C. Hang on, I gotta look it up. It's gonna drive me crazy. The Condition. I freaking love The Condition. That song's awesome. Worldwide is great too. So definitely a lot of really solid songs on that album, and I can actually listen to that entire album and enjoy it. Just The Act, however, is just a little hit or miss with me. So I don't necessarily mind the direction that they're heading, but personally, I prefer their older stuff. But I still look forward to seeing the new stuff that they put out. I'm just not as jazzed about it.
Thanks for that list, Preston.
For sure.
I now want to listen to Prada today, notably Plagues.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Big finale comes from Terry James Ray Adamson. Everyone's current PC setup. I'm going to defer to Preston because he knows my setup better than I know my own. Because he practically built it for me.
You have a 8700K with a 1080, 16 gigs of RAM, I believe.
24.
24? Okay, I'm not sure of your hard drive situation either, but I know you're rocking I don't know the exact model, Predator 1440p, 144 hertz monitor, 27-inch, I believe. I've got a 9900K, 32 gigs of RAM, a 2080 Ti, and I've got a 27-inch 4K 120 hertz monitor, Predator as well. That's my setup.
I also have an 8700K. I have a 1080 Ti. I have a. I don't remember what brand my RAM is. My sticks, but I got 4 of those. What else am I missing?
Just 4 of them? Are they a gig a piece?
Yeah.
Sure.
How
I don't
gigs?
actually know. I don't actually know how many
Okay.
gigs I have. I think it's 16, maybe. Maybe it's more. I don't know. I should probably open it and look. I got a 1440p monitor. I have a 1080p monitor. And is there anything else I'm missing? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what my.
Nice.
I have a SSD and a hard drive. I guess.
Cool.
I don't know what my motherboard is.
PCs are awesome. You should get one.
I forgot.
You should invest in one.
I have an Aorus Z390, I think.
That makes sense to me.
I guess it's the one that like guarantees you can hit 5 gigahertz with a 9900K, which is why I got it. I got it for a steal, dude. A used one for like $120. Absolute steal.
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, I know. And it works amazingly. So, well, I say that now and I go home, it's going to explode. But for the couple of months I've had it, it's worked great.
I imagine over the next couple of years, I'll be upgrading again. Get some new tech.
Apparently, the 30 series is coming out this holiday, and it's got me stressed out, dude. Because they're saying that like
you don't need it.
But they're saying like the Turing cores with the 20 series was like we were guinea pigs, and the new Ampere cores that are coming out with the next series are like supposed to absolutely demolish what's with the current RTX series. So reading all that stuff, I'm like, holy crap! Like, why did I buy a 2080 Ti? So
see, now I'm gonna wait till like spring of next year, then I'm gonna upgrade once like the honeymoon period's over.
I mean, if the rumors are correct, people are saying that like in terms of like ray tracing and stuff, the next like 3060 is supposed to like perform better than a 2080 Ti. But of course, all of this is just like, I know there's a guy on YouTube that I follow that has like been leaked all this from a NVIDIA guy, and apparently his source is very reputable, and he has like a past of putting out correct information. But until they actually like obviously confirm everything and people are getting the hardware and they're actually doing benchmarks and stuff, all of this is just complete like just
speculation,
especially because like they can say all of this stuff, but if they actually get the GPUs and it's like not doing what it should be doing or whatever, the numbers aren't as good as like they seem on paper or whatever. There's just a lot to it, but I'm gonna try and hold on to my 2080 this entire cycle until I can maybe upgrade it for like a reasonable price, or just wait until the next generation. I should be able to do that. Like people are still like rocking their 980s and like are loving every second of it. So
plus you're going to be busy buying the new PlayStation. You don't need to worry about that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd rather and of course it's like, it sounds so stupid. Like I know it's not going to be like top of the line once Comet Lake comes out later this month, I believe, but like I'm insanely like blessed with my setup, and just to feel like I need to upgrade it the second something new comes out is something I definitely need to get over and move past, because I completely understand how stupid it sounds when I know people would like give an arm and a leg to have my PC, and I'm like already wanting to like move forward and stuff. So that definitely is something I need to work out mentally.
I understand the desire to want the latest and greatest tech, though. Like, there's always like that lingering feeling in your head. It's like, man, I'm enjoying this, but I could be enjoying this so much more if I had this.
Exactly. It's like when I'm playing Cyberpunk and I'm like, man, there's somebody else out there that's like getting better performance than me and stuff. It messes with me. But but I definitely need to get over that. But anywho,
good luck.
Thanks.
You're going to need it. Gentlemen, that'll do it for episode 232 of the It's Obvious podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed talking about the news. And awesome questions this week, too. Thank you guys so much for investing the time to send these to us and fuel the latter half of the podcast. And we're just grateful for the support. I'm glad to be back every Monday at midnight. And we encourage you guys to continue sending us questions for the podcast. And, of course, joining our Discord called It's Obvious Gaming. If you have not already, it's an awesome community. We have a great time talking each and every week. And we're even coordinating as we speak and record this episode on how to do more community-generated content on our YouTube channel. So if you have ever been interested in playing games with us, we'd love to have you join us in any multiplayer situation. So yeah, join the Discord. Follow us on social media at ItsObviousGaming on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to stay updated. And you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and a variety of other places. And we encourage you to share the podcast as often as you're willing. Rate and subscribe to us on iTunes if you're willing to take the time. Apple Podcasts, because we'd still love to grow as much as we can and expand the community. But overall, guys, we are just grateful for your support, and we are so excited to be continuing, and we are pumped for the road ahead. You guys have any closing thoughts?
Nope, not really. Just be sure to leave us feedback if you would like to see more stuff from us or certain types of content. Because we are, like Garrett just said, we're exploring just not only doing more Let's Plays, but also just wanting to make more content that people want to see. So if you could let us know what you want to see, and if we think we can do it, we would love to make and deliver that to you.
For sure.
For
you
sure.
Got anything, Preston?
I don't think so. I just I enjoyed our conversations. I hope people listening enjoyed them as well, and I look forward to doing the next one.
For sure.
Yeah.
And hopefully participating in some more content. And yeah, man, I hope I have not to leave vague. I just hope the next time we talk, I can talk more about my life with everybody here. So
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Cool. I look forward
Looking
to it.
forward
I believe
to
we'll be
it.
having that conversation soon.
Yeah, hope so.
Cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful and blessed week. We love you to bits, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.